Hey guys, so I've been getting a lot of you requesting that I upload a video showing the types of VRT exercises that I do. So if you've been following my channel for very long, you would know that I suffer from a dizziness disorder. The doctors think it's caused by damage to my inner ears on both sides. So I have bilateral vestibular hypofunction, which is actually kind of rare. Most people have it on one side, not both. I was doing all these VRT exercises at first that I actually came up with myself, that I just kind of pulled from online videos, YouTube videos and stuff. And I wasn't sure if I was doing quite the right amount of, quite the right exercises, the right amount of them, or what. But as it turns out, those exercises did help me. And I did post a video on those exercises a few years ago. But then I eventually started seeing a physical therapist who we reworked those exercises to where I'm not doing as many of the exercises because some of them are not really necessary for my case. So just remember one thing, guys: the type of exercises that you do and how much you do of each one and how much you start off with is going to depend on your particular unique situation. Everybody's different. Everybody has different circumstances to their dizziness. So these exercises may or may not be quite all the right ones or whatever, but these are the ones that work for me, for my situation. You may not have to do these exercises for the rest of your life. A lot of people who have damage on just one side don't have to do these exercises forever. But in my case, I have damage on both sides. I do have to do them most likely forever. And so the doctors, again, think that I have permanent damage to my inner ear nerves. Anyway, I'm going to show you the exercise that I do right now. So I usually do some of my exercises standing on a foam balance pad. Now, I started off not doing exercises standing on a pad. I started off doing them just on hard ground. And then once I got better at those exercises, I started doing them on a foam pad. Without further ado, let's get started. So I'll put the foam pad under my feet and I'll stand on one foot. Now at first you may have to stand on 2 feet until you get good at that. Then you can graduate to standing on 1 foot. So what I do, stand on 1 foot, I look up, I find something on the ceiling. Now this is a little hard because I don't have something to fixate on. I'm looking at blue sky here. But I'm just doing this to show you what I do. Okay? So I just kind of do this for a few seconds, okay? And then what I do is I shuffle, I do some shuffles. And I do about 30 of these, just look straight up and I shuffle back and forth. I'm using the part of my inner ear that deals with linear accelerations and decelerations. So I do 30 of those. And I change my feet up and then I do some front to backs. I do this 30 times. Okay, so just imagine that was 30 times, okay? Now, I stand on my foam pad again, stand on 1 foot, and I look straight down. Some people get dizzy when they look down. Just stare down for about 30 seconds or so. Okay. Okay, now, I'm going to whip my head back and forth. I'm going to find a spot on the ground to stare at. So you just find a point on the ground that you can fixate your gaze on, right? And I whip my head back and forth. I do this for a minute. And you're going to stumble around a little bit. Just make sure when you're doing these exercises that you are safe. You're not going to fall and hit your head or injure yourself. You have to be really careful of that. So I just do this for a minute. So let's just pretend a minute has passed, okay? I close my eyes and I try to balance on that pad now that I've, used my inner ear. I just close my eyes, lift up, stand on 1 foot, stand on the pad. You're not going to get to this point at first. You're going to start off with your eyes open, standing on 2 feet on solid ground, then you're going to work your way up. You're going to make the exercises a little more difficult as you master the lower levels, okay? And then I open my eyes and I get ready for the next one, okay? Tip my head down again. See, my particular dizziness, I get the most dizzy looking down. So I get more benefit out of having my head down. You guys might have a different situation where you're just dizzy no matter what position you're in, so this part may not matter to you. You might get more dizzy looking up. Maybe, depending on what your physical therapist would say. You might do that then with your head up instead. I don't know. I'm not a physical therapist, but this is just what helps me. Okay, now I'm going to twirl around. I'm going to spin around. Spinning may... So if you're sensitive to spinning around because of your dizziness, if that makes it worse, then that's... Like in my case, then I need to spin around to challenge my balance system. So, okay, I'm going to turn 5 times. 4, 5. I think that was 5 times. Okay, I close my eyes. I stand on one foot on my pad. And I'm going to feel the spinning, lift up my head, and now it feels like it's spinning this way. Keeping my eyes closed. You'll probably start off doing these with your eyes open. Anyway, just challenging my balance system here. Keeping things finely tuned up here. Helping my brain compensate for the dizziness symptoms. Okay. And then once the dizziness settles, I'm going to spin the other way. Okay. 1, 2, whoa! 3, 4, 5. See, I'm not doing these exercises right now in my living room, so I'm kind of stumbling around. I'm not on flat, even ground here, so it's more challenging right now. Okay, and I'm going to wait for the dizziness to subside. See, I'm challenging the different inputs of my balance system. That's the point of these. And your brain learns how to handle the stimulus, the spinning, the acceleration, deceleration. Okay, it's pretty much settled now. Now, I keep my head straight, level, that is, horizontal, and then I'm going to spin this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? And I stand on one foot, and I let the dizziness subside. It's actually perfect because I skipped my exercises this morning, knowing I would do this video this afternoon. Okay, now I'm going to spin the other way, the opposite direction. Whoa. I know if I fall right now, I'm going to fall into soft snow and I'm not going to hurt myself. All right, the next exercise that I do is I guess they're called shuffles. I don't know. Keep my head tipped down for about 30 seconds. Just kind of ease into this position. Yeah, so your exercises are going to depend on what type of stimulus bothers you the most, makes you the most dizzy. And from what I understand, those are the ones you want to do. So if twirling makes you the dizziest, or makes you dizzy, you need to do those. You need to do what makes you dizzy. Okay, so now I shuffle like this back and forth. I do this about 20 times. I think it takes me about a minute to do that. And my eyes are closed. I'm not standing on the foam pad at this point. Now I'm going to do front and back shuffles. Step back. 20 times. And I do this with my eyes closed, because starting and stopping makes me, like, my brain overreacts to it, or my balance system overreacts to it. It just feels exaggerated. When I slow down on these, it feels exaggerated because of the damage in my inner ears. But the longer I've, since I've been doing these for a long time, I don't notice it as much. I lift my head up, eyes are closed. I usually feel a little increased dizziness. And this just keeps my balance system tuned. So these were helping me get better, of course, but also it helps me maintain my level of recovery from my symptoms. And these really help. These really helped me. I can live a largely normal life now because of it, because of these exercises. Okay, tip my head down. I'm going to tip my head down. This is the next portion of the exercises. I do this for about 30 seconds, and I'm standing on my pad. Anytime I'm doing these where I'm sitting still, I'm standing on my pad on one foot. Okay, now I'm going to do a different kind of shuffle. My feet, I'm not shuffling on my feet. My feet are in place. And I start off with my head down. And I shuffle like this back and forth. I do this for a minute, a full minute. So for me, it's 60 times. Now, do it this way. Okay, my head's horizontal, and I'm getting hot doing this. I do this 60 times, okay. Okay, now I'm going to do front to back ones. 2, 4, 5. Do this 60 times, and my head horizontal. I do it another 60 times. Okay. All right. Now another exercise that my physical therapist introduced, he added this one. These next ones are ones that I hadn't been doing before until I saw my physical therapist. So he has me standing on my pad once again, and I didn't bring it with me, but it's a sheet of paper, a laminated sheet of paper with a grid on it. It's supposed to have a very busy background that kind of overwhelms your brain a little bit. And there's a center focal point on that piece of paper. You hold it in front of you, okay? And you start off, this is how he had me do it. He had me start off holding the piece of paper still. Okay, so pretend my hand's a piece of paper, okay? And I got the dot that I'm looking at. And I go like this. I fixate on the dot, and I swing my head back and forth like this. Don't swing your head too violently because it could hurt your neck. So just do that for a minute. And then do the same thing with the piece of paper, but this time go up and down. Keep your eyes fixated on that dot. And that's what I've been doing. I do that for a minute, okay? Then once I didn't get as dizzy anymore after doing those, he then had me do something different with the piece of paper. So now I'm fixating on the piece of paper, and instead of holding the piece of paper still, you move it in the opposite direction that your head is swinging, right? So you go like this. So see how my head's going and the piece of paper's going in the opposite direction? And you do that while staring at the dot in the center. See? I do that for a whole minute. And then between that and the busy background, the checkerboard pattern, on there, it really messes with your head. But then you get used to it, okay? And usually like, whoa, kind of woozy after doing that one. Then after the wooziness settles down, you gotta wait for it to settle down. I usually wait about a minute. Okay, then do the same thing but vertically. So you move the piece of paper down, your head up, while you're still able to stare at that dot, see? Like this. Do that for a whole minute. And then let the dizziness settle. So he also added another thing that I can do occasionally where I toss a tennis ball up in the air and catch it. And you start doing that a few times. You know, until you get better at it. Once you get better at throwing a ball up in the air and tracking the ball and catching it, you know, regaining your hand-eye coordination with your dizziness and everything, with a snowball, but that won't be catching it. Then he had me, once I got good at that, he had me walk and catch it. Now that's hard for me. So like I'm walking, and then, you know, catching it as I'm walking. And then he'd have me like throw it up in the air and twirl before I catch it. That's the hard part for me. Doing this. So, and that's it. Takes me about 15-20 minutes. When you start doing these exercises, you are going to feel worse at first, but that's because your brain's overwhelmed at first. It's like, oh my god, adding all this new stimulus, brain's like freaking out. So you're going to feel dizzier at first. You might have some brain fog at first, but don't get discouraged by it. That's normal. So you should feel a little worse at first, but then that starts to fade. Then you start noticing, oh, I'm getting better. So keep going with it. When I was at my worst, when I was at my worst, I was doing them 3 times a day, but my old routine, but that was way too much. The physical therapist said, no, that's too much. So twice a day, once in the morning, once at night before bed. Like I said, you may not have to do these exercises forever. You might just do them for a few weeks, a few months, whatever. Everyone's different. Everyone's situation's different. My situation's unique because I have damage on both sides. That's unusual. I have to do these exercises forever because my situation's unusual. So most people who have dizziness problems aren't going to have damage on both sides. So I'm the rare case that I've reached a certain level of recovery from my symptoms and then I've leveled off. I haven't gotten better in a year, or at least noticeably better in a year or two. And that's okay. I've gotten way better than I was. So I'm usually, on most days, I'm about 80%, 90% better. Like reduced dizziness. I always do feel some dizziness. Some days are worse than others, but I'm normally 80 to 90% recovered from overall from my dizziness. My motion intolerance, like I'd turn and I'd keep feeling dizzy for a long time, that's pretty much gone now. So there are some dizziness symptoms that I don't have anymore at all. Like I don't have the jumpy vision anymore. But when you consider all the symptoms that I do have, I'm way better. I'm way better. But I'm probably not going to continue to improve, my ear, nose, throat doctor says, because I have damage on both sides. And it's a little harder to get full recovery when you have damage on both sides. And you typically have to do these exercises longer term when you have damage on both sides. But chances are you probably don't, because it's very rare to have damage on both sides. Stick with those exercises. Be consistent. You got to be consistent. Consistency is important. Very important. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to brush all the snow off me now and get back to my hike.